Today is the most important day because we are taking another vital step to achieve justice for Jamal. We have been waiting for too long, for 2 years, but this case can now take us there.
Hello, my name is Stanley Heller. Welcome to The Struggle. The Struggle is shown on over 30 cable stations from Maine to New York City and points west. We start with a discussion of the premeditated killing of an American citizen. I'm talking about the killing of Michael Reinl, who was suspected of killing a man in Portland. Reinl was killed by U.S. Marshals and other police who shot him over 20 times. Weeks ago, Trump called Reinl a violent criminal and described the killing as retribution. Last week, Trump was clearer. He said, "We sent in U.S. Marshals, took 15 minutes, and it was over. They knew who he was. They didn't want to arrest him. In 15 minutes, that ended." Consider those words. They didn't want to arrest him. Think of what that means. They wanted to kill him, and they did. They killed a suspect. Shocking that the president said it, and shocking that neither Biden nor any other political leader in the country condemned a premeditated killing of a suspect. Some writers have condemned it. Ken Klippenstein of The Nation said the messages sent to the public is that the marshals and local law enforcement and the FBI that served with them in this operation are just these kinds of lawless, roving gangs that are going to go out and do the president's bidding. Under the federal zero-tolerance policy for immigrants, between 2,700 and 5,500 children were separated from their families. Judges ordered them to be reunited, but there's a shocking new report that says 545 children are still separated. Their parents have already been deported, and likely they will never be reunited. 545 children, some under the age of 6. There are other countries in the world, and many of them have done far better than the U.S. at limiting COVID-19 deaths. The main reason is that the politicians who embrace toxic masculinity discourage mask wearing and social distancing. Consider North Dakota. If North Dakota was a country, it would have the highest COVID-19 rate in the world. In New York City, in Crown Heights, a defund the police rally. In the election frenzy, the cause has taken a back seat, but the reality is still the same.
Defund the police. Fund our hospitals. Defund the police. Just fund anyone else.
This is what community looks like. Show me what community looks like. This is what community looks like.
When we say Black Lives Matter, that means we include LGBT. How can it not be a contradiction when Islam Nettles was attacked across the street from a police precinct and not one police officer came out to help her? How can we not talk about contradiction when in Rikers Island, Laleen Polanco didn't receive any care from herself?
That is important too. Remember the stuff that you did this summer. we can create the world we want. And we can create the world we want. They're going to tell us that we can't have nice public housing. They're going to tell us that our schools can't look nice. They can't look like their schools. They're going to keep telling us that this is how it's going to be. We'll give you a little bit, we'll change a little bit, we'll move some numbers around in the budget, but then we look at it, the police budget went up. It didn't even go down at all. It went up. They're going to tell you this is progress. Is this progress?
If your governor told you you've been heard, have you been heard? Are you going home? Say, hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. Say, hell no, we won't go. Say, hell no, we won't go.
Save the date, November 21st, that's a Saturday, 1 o'clock. The Gandhi Peace Award presentation online. For details, go to peace.org. The Saudi Arabian tyranny is hosting the forum, the G20 forum of the big capitalist nations. A letter by several score members of Congress has called upon the federal government not to send representatives. In part, it reads, as the world's leading democracy and purveyor of human rights, our government should demand dramatic changes to Saudi Arabia's dismal record of human rights violations. Should the Saudi government fail to take immediate steps to address this record, we should withdraw from the Saudi-led G20 summit and commit to making human rights reforms a condition of all further dealings with Saudi Arabia's government. Jan Schakowsky and Ilhan Omar, Democratic members of the U.S. House of Representatives, were among 45 lawmakers who signed the letter, which was supported by the advocacy group Freedom Forward. Now to a press conference to explain a lawsuit in the United States that seeks damages from the Saudi Crown Prince and his gang for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi.
At the time of his murder, we filed a 7-count complaint in federal district court for the District of Columbia seeking civil redress for Mr. Khashoggi's extrajudicial killing. The suit is brought against Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and 28 other Saudi nationals. The suit asserts claims under the Torture Victims Protection Act and other statutes. From the outset, we want to be clear about the objectives of this lawsuit. They are twofold. First, the suit seeks to hold accountable those responsible for the brutal, premeditated kidnapping, torture, assassination, and dismemberment of a U.S. resident, Mr. Khashoggi. Second, while as set forth in the complaint, we have many details of this heinous act and what led up to it, this lawsuit is also a search for the entire truth. Let me identify some of the key factual averments in the complaint. First and foremost, Mr. Khashoggi would be alive today if Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman did not order that he be killed. What the evidence shows is that Mr. Khashoggi was perceived by the Crown Prince as an existential threat. In particular, the defendants discovered that Mr. Khashoggi's work with our plaintiff, Democracy for the Arab World Now, and feared that it would be a platform used in a manner that would jeopardize their pecuniary, political, and other interests. In addition, it is critically important to bear in mind that the Crown Prince and other defendants orchestrated an elaborate ruse to lure Mr. Khashoggi out of the United States in order to murder him. Specifically, while in the United States, Mr. Khashoggi had meetings and phone discussions with officials at the Saudi embassy in the United States, including with then Saudi ambassador Khalid bin Salman. He was informed repeatedly that he could not obtain the certificate of marriage eligibility he needed to confirm his civil marriage to Ms. Cengiz. in the US and would have to travel to the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. This Mr. Khashoggi did, and in Istanbul, as we all know, the defendants abducted and murdered him. Now I would like to turn this over to my co-counsel, Faisal Gill, to provide some additional information. Thank you. Faisal?
Thank you, Keith. As Keith stated, the purpose of this lawsuit is very clear. We want accountability and we want to search for the truth. Now, I mean, obviously Khadija will speak for herself afterwards, but I know that those of us who are involved in this lawsuit, we would prefer that, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Sultan be in a criminal case, criminal setting, where he can actually pay for his crimes, what he did. But unfortunately, right now, that is not possible. Until that happens, the only way to hold him accountable is by filing a civil lawsuit, which is what we have done. The hope for this lawsuit is to basically have the world know of all the facts that took place that led to the death of Jamal Khashoggi. And it was a brutal and heinous premeditated murder. There is no other way of looking at it. He was specifically targeted, and he was targeted, as Keith stated, because he was starting an organization called Democracy of the Arab World Now, where he was going to try to bring about democracy in the Arab world, especially in Saudi Arabia. And Crown Prince Mohammed bin Sultan basically viewed Jamal as a threat because Jamal had a voice. Jamal had a voice that people listened to. And because he had a voice that people listened to, Mohammed bin Sultan wanted to silence that voice. And that's exactly what he went about doing. The way he did it, again, the facts that Keith stated and the facts that will come out in our lawsuit, is he tried to get a what's a marriage license, basically, for all practical purposes in the United States. He was told he could not do that. He was told he would have to go to Turkey to do that, which is what he did. They knew exactly when he was going to go. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Sultan knew exactly when he was going to go to Turkey to do that. And
excuse me.
I'm sorry?
You should correct Mohammed bin Salman.
I'm sorry, yeah. Mohammed bin Salman knew exactly when it was going to do that. And he basically set his hit squad there to kill Jamal. We're going to make sure that he is held accountable. What we hope comes out of this lawsuit after, and we are confident that we are going to prevail, is the facts that Saudi has to give up the documents, and not just Saudi Arabia, other people who have documents as well. We know the United States government has several documents on this as well, that we, in the discovery phase, get all those documents and get the truth as to what actually took place and all of the circumstances that led to Jamal Khashoggi's death. Only then will we be able to hold Saudi Arabia accountable. With that, I will turn it back to Keith for our next speaker.
Thank you, Faisal. And now we have Sarah Lee Whitson, who is the executive director of the plaintiff, one of the two plaintiffs in this matter, Democracy for the Arab World Now. Sarah Lee, you have the floor.
Thanks, Keith. As some of you know, Dawn, Democracy for the Arab World Now, was the brainchild of Jamal Khashoggi with a very simple mission to promote democracy and human rights in the Arab world as the only systems that will bring a lasting peace, security, and most critically, dignity for the people of the Middle East and North Africa. This is what so threatened co-conspirators. This is why they killed him. Because what Mohammed bin Salman hates more than anything else is the voice of his own citizens calling for reform and calling for change. I am very honored to have taken on the role of executive director since Jamal's murder. We very much plan to uphold the mission and vision of Jamal Khashoggi to document and expose the culprits like Mohammed bin Salman, like Saud al-Qahtani, and who are committing terrible abuses against the peoples of the Arab world. We also will be documenting and exposing the role of the United States and other international actors and the extent to which they are supporting or undermining democracy and human rights in the Middle East. Our goal includes providing a platform for political exiles from the Middle East, like Jamal Khashoggi, who have fled their countries because they are not free to express their political opinions. They are not protected by human rights, and they are not living in democracies. We want to give a platform for independent voices like Jamal Khashoggi's, who represent in many places the only independent civil society from the region. Thousands of people like Jamal Khashoggi who want democracy and human rights and who MBS cannot silence. This lawsuit is one more means for us to seek accountability. I have been a human rights advocate for decades, and these are indeed dark days for many, many people in the Middle East and North Africa. A lawsuit like this provides great hope for advocates like myself, for human rights advocates, for people seeking reform throughout the Middle East and North Africa, to know that there are opportunities for justice, there are opportunities for holding perpetrators accountable. We strive for opportunities like this to prosecute those, at least in a civil suit, and to seek a form of judicial accountability, to seek compensation and punishment that is so often, almost always absent for those who perpetrate grave abuses against the peoples of the Middle East. We want to show tyrants like Mohammed bin Salman that they will be made to pay a price in the court of public opinion, a price in federal district court of the United States. We seek to deter MBS and other Saudi officials who are continuing to abuse not only their own citizens, but seek to pursue and hound and punish exiles abroad who raise their voices. And we very much want to deter other tyrants like Mohammed bin Salman around the world who think they can get away with murder. This is our effort to show them that they will continue to pay a price for their crimes. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Lee. Now I'd like to give the floor to the widow of Jamal, somebody who has been a tireless voice for accountability and a tireless voice for justice for Jamal, Miss Hatice Cengiz.
I welcome everybody to this press conference. Today is the most important day because we are taking another vital step to achieve justice for Jamal. We have been waiting for too long, for 2 years, but this case can now take us there. Jamal lived for making the world better. His greatest desire was to use his voice to achieve fundamental reform. He had a deep passion, desire to advocate for democracy in the Middle East and for women's empowerment. When I met Jamal, I knew we were meant for one another. So did he. Meeting Jamal changed my life forever. But then a group of criminals, that is what they are, decided Jamal's voice was too powerful, too threatening, and so they decided they must silence him permanently. And they did. They murdered him in a most ruthless and cruel way. They took the coward's approach. They ambushed him and they tortured him and they murdered my Jamal. And his murder has changed my life and all of our lives forever. We must all stand against such brutality, and inhumanity, we must all stand for Jamal and his vision. I will not rest until the complete truth comes, and I will not rest until those responsible are held accountable. They killed Jamal to silence him. And the best response we can make, all of us together, is say, you will not silence his message. You will not stop his efforts for democratic reforms and advocacy of human rights, because we will carry on his legacy. The case we fight today is about justice for Jamal. There are two goals: accountability for the murderers and exposing the whole truth. I believe that the United States, through the United States justice system, is one of the best places to achieve this. That's why we filed the case here. Jamal firmly believed, he said this often, that if you want change in the Middle East, you must work for that in the United States. Let me perfectly clear about one thing. What the evidence shows is that one person is behind Jamal's murder: Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. He is as responsible as those who carried out the murder in Istanbul. Mohammed bin Salman killed Jamal because the Crown Prince is so weak, so fragile, that he could not accept any dissent, he could not accept any criticism. My goal in life is to carry out Jamal's will and his vision. He believed that central to the advancement of the interest of all people in the Middle East is the promotion of human rights for all. He believed that in order to have a brighter future in this region, we have to work to greater democracy. And because he advocated these ideas, especially since he advocated them in the United States, Mohammed bin Salman murdered him. I want the truth. We know who is responsible, but we want the whole truth, and we want accountability. Certainly, no one behind this most gruesome murder should have any role in becoming monarch. I ask the United States government, a nation that has stood for justice, accountability, and human rights. I ask that you stand with me and all those who love Jamal and say we will support your efforts to fully uncover the truth and ensure that those responsible are found liable in a court of law. Those are the objectives of our lawsuit. It's about using all means to turn over every stone and to make guilty answerable. We must show them that their attempt to silence Jamal has backfired, because it has made all of us his voice. And we will not rest until the wrongdoers are brought to justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Khadija. And thanks to everybody for your attention. We will now answer some questions as time permits. Please note that Ms. Cengiz will not be answering questions this morning. The first question we have is from Karen Attia from the Washington Post. She asked what it means to prevail. Are we seeking compensation? Faisal, do you want to handle that question?
Sure. I think that there's several definitions, several things that we're seeking. The first thing, as we have stated all along, that we're seeking is the truth. So for prevailing, we would like to get to actually what happened, and that is through discovery. So we absolutely want to get discovery first and foremost, not only from Saudi Arabia, but also from the United States, where we believe that they do have documents and tape recordings that are pertinent to this case. Ultimately, because this is a civil lawsuit, the only thing that we can ask for is monetary damages. So yeah, we are seeking monetary damages, but that is not the main focus of the lawsuit. The main focus of the lawsuit is, one, having a court actually hold MBS liable, basically a court of law in the United States saying that yes, it was MBS who committed this atrocious murder. And then second is getting the discovery that we're looking for. But ultimately, what we will also get is monetary damages, which we should get, but that is certainly not the main focus.
Thank you, Faisal. I would just add, and I think Hatice said this, and certainly her actions have spoken to this, and Sarah Lee has said this as well. This is not the only effort for accountability. There are many efforts.
That's our program for today. See you next week at this time. I'm Stanley Heller for The Struggle.